Sahaja Sthiti. It means abidance in the natural state. Abidance as the innate. This is one of the ways in which Sri Bhagavan described self-realization. He says that self-realization is innate. How can it be? It must be because the nature of realization is identical with the being that is the self that is realized, and as such is ever existent, without coming and without going. What comes and goes, appears and disappears, is not innate, is not ourself. Even the state of coming and going comes and goes. The innate is ever existent. It is nirguna, attributeless. For that which is innate is non-objective and cannot be conceived in terms of qualities. What is natural for you? The innate is most eloquently described in silence. Yet turning inward, some expression can be given of it. What is natural for you? It is natural to be happy. Unhappiness is never natural. We should abide in that which is natural. We should abide as that which is natural. If that which is natural is nirguna, without attributes, then happiness should not be considered as an attribute, as something that comes and goes or belongs or is lost. Rather, the nature of happiness must be one's very being. What is innate? No perception and no conception can be considered innate, for they are objective and they are not always with you. The innate must be ever existent. What is natural for you? Your very being is, of course, natural. What is its nature? What is existence itself? What appears to be known is not innate, but the consciousness that shines so that such knowing is even possible is so. Being is innate. Consciousness is innate. Ananda, happiness, bliss, is innate. These are not qualities or attributes. This is just a means of expressing one indivisible, homogeneous reality. It is wise to identify yourself as the self, the innate. To consider what is not the self to be yourself is delusive. Delusion takes the form of misidentification, and in outward terms, attachment. But an attached state is not natural. A misidentified state is certainly not natural. Delusion itself is not natural. What is natural for you? What is innate, you ever are. What is not so, you never are. Inquire to determine what in truth you are. Who am I? The idea of a separate individuality is a falsely conceived attribute. It is not innate. it is not true. Determine the truth of what you are by inquiring within, non-objectively, who am I? Who or what is it that can abide as the innate? Only the innate can abide as itself. There are not two of you, a true self and a false self, a greater self and a lesser self. There is only one self. So then, the natural state is that in which there is no other I, no other world. Just one indivisible, absolute, unchanging existence. Considering any kind of bondage and its consequent suffering, none of that, not one speck of it, is natural. It is all born out of the stuff of imagination. Understand it to be so. In disidentifying from false definition, know yourself as you are. That which so knows is that which ought to be known.
That's such a wondrous question to ask oneself. What is natural? It's really asking one to find out who you are.
We're always doing that here.
Many forms of who am I?
Different ways of coaxing.
The last thing we seem to want to do. When I ask myself the question, what's natural is simply to exist. It goes on without any effort, and any effort can't even interfere with it. There's no way that it's ever altered. And I have a doubtless knowledge of that existence all the time. It's always there.
Is it individualized?
Not at all.
If it is not at all individualized, the question of effort or the absence of such no longer applies. For whom would such qualities or states be?
For the unnatural one.
The unnatural.
In practicing, my practice now is to meditate intensely twice a day, in the morning and then in the afternoon. And most of the time that experience of being in the natural state is there in the morning and then again in the afternoon. Between those, there's some drifting. And it makes me go, well, maybe you should meditate in the middle of it and cut it in half. Which then you go, okay, well, now you got two halves, why don't you cut each of those in half? And then it's like, okay, why is there any drifting at all? Whereas, I mean, that would certainly be a way to...
To what do you drift?
I drift to what the body's engaged in, what I'm thinking, the tasks of, making a livelihood. That's what they drift to.
What is it that you're referring to as drifting?
Well, drifting would be moving away from that natural state, is what it feels like. It would be some kind of imagined departure from...
If it's natural, how do you move from it?
That prompts the question, am I moving from it? Because your question makes me question my assumption, am I actually moving from it? And
again, what constitutes the drifting? What do you suppose is your identity?
Somebody sitting in front of a computer at a desk, looking at a screen, moving hands around, thinking about what's on the screen.
And why do you consider that to be yourself?
I should be asking myself that.
And that you can ask at any time.
Yeah. Well, then I should be asking myself what I think I am right now. I don't need to wait till the middle of the day. Okay.
Is the body the self? Are you a sitter, a speaker, some kind of performer of action?
Well, when you ask the question, are you the body, what I actually consider the body to be becomes much more nebulous. The thing, it's interesting, I'm not quite sure what I'm actually misidentifying with when I start to look at what it is. It's almost like Friday night when Rivu was talking about the concept, how small it is, but when I don't look at it, the concept seems to have some solidity.
It is wiser for the inquiry to be carried on subjectively. What the body is may be according to viewpoint. You might view it as inert, as an instrument, as a temple, as a collection of particles, as a thought within the mind, or something that was never actually created. But regardless of the view, are you the body? Whether you think it's inert or sentient, in either case, Are you that?
Returning to the question, what's natural, and asking from there. No, the body is not part of that. That's not I.
The body is not your continuous experience, is it?
It's interesting. I started to want to start going, oh, well, what is the body? But you just gave the instruction, don't try to figure out the body as, am I whatever I consider the body to be, whatever that definition might be. So, and when you point out that it's not continuous, then that's pretty clear that I'm not something that's discontinuous like the body. I don't experience the answer to the question, what's natural, as a discontinuous and broken definition of myself. It doesn't feel that way.
Similarly, is your existence an object? The body is an object. Apart from the sensations regarded as it, you have no experience of it. But are you an object? Are you a product of sensations?
No.
Again, similarly, the body is obviously transitory. It most certainly will not last forever. But it is impossible, quite impossible, to even imagine the cessation of your existence. Let alone experience such.
If attempting to do that now, it just drives further into the existence is what happens. Trying to find a break in it, it becomes more obvious that it's breakless.
In light of this, how can the body and I be equated?
Yeah, the body does not equal existence. It does not. When you pointed out that it's the only thing that I know of the body are perceptions, it becomes very clear that the rest of it is some additional concept about those perceptions, but
The perceptions also are merely conceived. They appear in one state of mind. But do you appear in a state of mind?
No, because if I look at states of mind, they're just made up of a bunch of objects, and I'm never one of the objects in any of the states.
That which knows about the states of mind must be beyond the states of mind. Now, Sahaja Sthiti is not a temporary experience. It is that supreme realization in which there is absolutely one without a second, without the possibility of any alternative whatsoever. There's no going into it and going out of it. What the Maharshi realized, he didn't just dip into twice a day. When that natural state is realized, all doubts are resolved, all misconceptions are obliterated. The entirety of illusion becomes impossible. It is immortal, blissful, true knowledge. It is Brahman.